Colin Kaepernick thing. I mean, all this craziness that happened that year, and Colin was, speaking, and he was kneeling, and a lot of the fans were attacking him, and he was, supposedly disrespecting the United States because of kneeling to the national anthem, and he spoke very, very highly of you. Tell us a little bit about your connection with Colin Kaepernick, and obviously why you supported Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just support freedom of speech, freedom of
Hmm.
expression. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what you believe, those symbols, the flag, the anthem, those mean something very special to me because of my time in the military. But not everybody has the same connection to those symbols as I do, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, I had the opportunity to sit down with him and kind of share some of my story. He shared his, like why we felt the way we felt. We didn't agree on everything, but we were able to have a respectful conversation and listen to one another. And as after our conversation that he started kneeling instead of sitting on the bench. He took into account some of the things I said and wanted to respect the military. So I respected that, and I always will because it's not, for me, it's not about us all. Unity isn't about us all thinking the same way and believing the same things. It's us having genuine tolerance and but also like being heard, listening, but also being heard and and being respectful of one another, and that's it. And like that's something that he showed me, and I hope I showed him in that same way, and that's what it was all about. So I was proud of that moment, and it didn't really have the effect maybe it could have because the news media, the social media, whatever, all these things. We're in a very divisive time. It was back then in 2016. It still is today. So a lot of that got washed out because, like, they don't want to report on those stories of people coming together. They just want to report on stories of, people hating on one another.
It's interesting because we've also seen the impact it has had in other sports too. We've had
Hmm.
Bruce Maxwell, who was the first one to do it in MLB. He's been on our show 3 times, and he was talking about a lot of the
Gotcha.
same things you were talking about. And you
Right.
definitely see the effect of it across other sports. So, what do you think about it? Like, is it a positive impact? Do you think it's spreading even more? And what do you think is your thoughts on the overall influence of it?
Yeah. I mean, when you see it, like it's in the freaking European soccer leagues. People are
Mhm.
doing it before the games. It's wild. And I just hope that people understand why, and and I hope people understand that you know just because you take a knee, it doesn't mean you're anti-America or anti-police or anti-military or anything like that. And just because you stand with your hand on your heart, it doesn't mean that you're anti racial equality and these other things. Like I think it's silly that people see those things and they kind of group it into a certain thought, and it's like, no, man, like you can be patriotic and open-minded at the same time. You can be, you don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not either of them, and you don't have to be those things. You can be whatever you want. I mean, that's the great thing about America. That's what's supposed to be the special part of what makes us unique, and it's all about that Constitution, and the First Amendment is that freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
I love your 2018 film. You were a secret agent, and I love the movie Den of Thieves. It was a
Oh yeah.
fantastic movie. And what was it like being on a movie with some of the great actors that were on that movie?
It was awesome, man. I mean, it was a great opportunity for me. I had just done this other movie called 12 Strong, about the first Green Berets kind of um, going to Afghanistan after 9/11. I got to meet the director, Christian Gudegas at Den of Thieves, and that was one of my first big acting gigs. And it was cool because I got to shadow him too and learn about filmmaking, learn about what it's like to be on the other side of the camera too, which led me to eventually write and direct MVP, which is a movie
Mhm.
based on our charity. So for people that haven't seen MVP, it's on Paramount Plus, it's on Apple TV, Prime, all those places. So please go watch
Fantastic,
MVP.
by the way,
But
fantastic. Mhm.
thank you. I mean, the belief, part of the belief of me being able to do that was from the guidance of Christian Gudegas, who directed Den of Thieves, and so that experience on that film and getting to be in scenes with with O'Shea Jackson Jr., which is Ice Cube's son, and Pablo Schreiber, which is Lee Schreiber's brother, and 50 Cent. I mean, Gerard Butler, getting to know him a little bit. It was awesome. Like, it was just a really cool experience. I learned a lot.